Engineers design products under the assumption that not much would go wrong during its usage. Except, it happens a lot in the real world. How then can products be designed to work flawlessly in a flawed environment? Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of Mind Brunch. This is the penultimate video in the series on Design for Error. Remember the last time you were inquiring about a product with a sales representative? What are the questions that each of you asked the other? Were they straightforward and simple? Were the questions few or more in number? Were you satisfied when only a couple of your questions were answered? The answer is probably no. You would have probed further until all your doubts were cleared and you had a good understanding of the product. Isn't it surprising then that we expect those products that are no way near to us in sentient thinking to distinguish our inputs as being correct or not? Machines and other everyday products aren't smart enough to know if an input is correct or the motive behind any inputs. In such an environment, designers are focused more on engineering products for the correct scenarios, where every step goes as expected and within ideal limits. What about those times when things take a turn for the worse? Sadly, many of the products aren't designed to handle errors, either conscious or passive. Imagine the horror a patient has to go through if the nurse or any other medical professional unknowingly keys in a number too big for normal dosage in an X-ray machine. You may have heard about how a small error while typing on the keyboard has wiped huge amounts off of bank accounts. The main reason behind all of these is, it is easier for an error to occur than it is to realize the said error and correct the same. Don Norman, in his book, The Design of Everyday Things, provides the following list of useful ideas. Understand the cause of an error and work towards reducing that cause. Carry out sensibility checks to determine if the design passes a common sense threshold. Provide the user to undo actions or design such that it is difficult to commit an error itself. Design for easier detection of errors and corrective actions. Instead of slotting as errors, it helps to view user actions as approximations of what he seeks to achieve. Hence, it is important to guide the user in completing a task. Let us explore some steps designers can take in implementing these ideas. Mistakes arise when the feedback provided by the system is either incomplete or deemed unnecessary. This happens since the information that is presented as a feedback may not be helpful in completing a task correctly. Interruptions are also one of the main culprits that contribute to errors. When a worker restarts after an interruption, it is critical to remember the present state of the system or the step that was previously completed. Instead of addressing the need for such useful information, many products are designed to provide information that isn't necessary, past the short-term memory. The airline industry, even here, has come up with a novel idea to deal with interruptions. Sterile cockpit configuration is a practice that is followed in certain phases of airline travel, wherein the pilots aren't allowed to discuss anything other than that concerning the flight controls. Such methods can reduce mental slips and other mistakes in instances, like driving, where, as a particular junction is approaching, the conversation is halted, to allow the driver to focus completely on the route, and on other tasks, like switching on the turn lights. Another effective way to counter errors is to limit the number of warning messages that are communicated to the user. Oftentimes, such messages indicate slight variations that aren't critical to the smooth operation of the system. It is thus advisable to save the critical messages and alarms for those instances when the user needs to be completely attentive. It also prevents complacency on the part of the user. In fact, smart and effective usage of speech warning signals can help prevention of errors to a great extent. Research on errors has thrown light on the critical areas that need to be focused on in order to prevent errors. One of them is to build a system that makes it difficult to fail. Consider the presence of multiple reservoirs in a vehicle. Each of them is built to accept a particular type of fluid. How do we prevent people from mixing up fluids and pouring the wrong oil in a reservoir? Design of reservoir orifices is varied to match the respective fluid container so as to indicate a match. Along with this, unique colors for each of the oils might also serve as indicators. These are similar in approach to polka yoke. As discussed earlier, the option to undo a step helps immensely in cutting down on errors. Although similar options are available to rework on the task recently completed, providing multi-level undo options are found to be optimal. Be it the time an important email is being composed, or the numerous occasions when we have misspelled words, deleting and retyping a sentence has ensured that we can trust the computer to help us backtrack on those errors and correct the same. Sometimes, we find ourselves in the midst of a scenario where we end up confirming a step that we didn't intend to. There is a reason why this happens. Just like warning signals, a plethora of confirmation messages might make a user to care less, which can lead to an occasional mistake, like confirming a wrong action. It will be extremely useful if the designers provide a combination of backtracking on errors, as well as providing unique confirmation messages, like highlighting the window that is to be closed, if a user has a ton of them open on the screen. In order to highlight the importance of certain design necessities, imagine yourself in the following situation. You are about to transfer 1,000 units of your local currency through net banking. You have approximately 5,000 in your account. Mistakenly you type in 10,000 and hit send. The system only asks you if you want to complete the transaction. You press continue, and it's done. It won't be too late before you realize the consequences. Maybe the bank allows for credit, or maybe the transaction will bounce, leaving you in a soup. Won't you wish the system automatically splashed a message which told you that this amount is more than what you have, and informs you about the outcomes? That is exactly what a sensibility check is all about. Systems that verify whether a particular input is sensible enough to consider. Thinking back about the wrong inputs in the X-ray machines, such checks will work effectively in many sectors, including the medical industry. Finally, how about just building products that can contain slips? We know that slips transpire due to mental tasks being taken over by automatic cognitive phases that arise due to a familiarity with some actions. This can be reduced by providing feedback that is hard to miss. The same can be amplified by providing feedbacks about individual tasks in their own unique manner. These come handy when the user is handling multiple tasks simultaneously. Consider the case for a machine-readable code that accompanies a doctor's prescription. Provided how some of us face difficulty with the legibility of their writing, an electronic code for every medicine prescribed will reduce errors on the side of the pharmacist. The same can be extended to nurses, who attend to numerous patients every day, so that they administer the right amount of the correct medicine to the intended patient and at the right time. A more common scenario involving complex machinery is the similarity of switches and buttons. They all look the same. Wouldn't it be nice to design them differently, so that even with automatic mental modes taking over, the probability of errors is reduced? This was part 5 of the series on Design for Error. The main source is the book, The Design of Everyday Things, by Don Norman. You can find the link to purchase the book in the description, down below. Have you unknowingly sent a wrongly worded email? Share them in the comments section, along with any feedback that you may have. Give this video a thumbs up if you learned something new, and share. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thank you for watching this episode of Mind Brunch.